First contact, first insult. In a cold corner of space near the neutral zone of Sector 18, a massive star station floated silently. Its surface shimmered with golden lights while dozens of warships from different civilizations hovered nearby. Each one stood as a symbol of power. Each carried a flag of pride. The Galactic Dominion had called this meeting a show of strength, disguised as diplomacy. From the far side of the system, Earth's unified fleet arrived slowly, not with fanfare, not with flashy tech, but with quiet discipline. Their ships were dull gray in color and block-shaped with heavy armor and engines that looked outdated to the alien eyes. The humans approached the station and formed a clean formation around it, but the contrast between their fleet and the Dominion's shining warships was impossible to ignore. On board the Dominion's command vessel, a tall officer with pale skin and glowing eyes stood at the viewing panel. His name was Commander Velas, and he grinned when he saw the human ship. "So, these are the Terrans," he said, sounding amused. "I expected something more advanced, not these flying cargo boxes around him." Other Dominion officers chuckled. One leaned closer to the glass. "Are they serious? Are these real warships? I've seen miners with better hulls." Velas laughed louder and turned to his crew. "Send a greeting transmission. Let's see what these primitives think they're doing here." The message sent was formal on the surface, but every word carried a sharp tone, a welcome wrapped in superiority. The humans received it without comment. Their lead vessel blinked its lights and returned a quiet signal of acknowledgement. On the bridge of the Earthship, Captain Reed stood watching the exchange. His uniform was plain, his eyes were calm. His crew worked in silence behind him, no one reacting to the insult message. "Received, sir," said his communications officer with a steady voice. "They mock us openly." "Noted," Captain Reed answered. "Are we ready?" The officer gave a small nod. "Observation complete, sir. All systems in place." "Then we continue as planned," said the captain. "Keep shields low, keep weapons cold. Make no move unless provoked." "Yes, sir." Back on the Dominion flagship, the aliens began preparing a demonstration. One of their ships moved forward, sleek and black with red engine trails. It flew past the human line at high speed, then spun and deployed its weapons for all to see. Gleaming cannons with rotating barrels, plasma rails lined with blue sparks. It was a performance made to impress, but also to intimidate. Humans remained still. Their ships did not move. Their weapons stayed hidden. The Dominion grew bolder. "Let them see what a real fleet looks like," Commander Velas ordered. "Bring in the war-class carriers. Let's show them our new cloaking grid." Moments later, 3 massive ships arrived, war-class indeed, each larger than any human vessel present. They faded in and out of view as their cloaks activated and deactivated shields, pulsing with strange energy patterns. Alien tech engineers ran the systems with pride, certain that no race could match such design. Yet, the humans continued their silent watch. One of the younger Dominion analysts frowned as he stared at the human vessel. "Something feels off, sir. Their heat signatures are wrong. Engine activity is too low or too steady. I can't tell if they're active or dormant." "They re-old junk," the commander said dismissively. "Probably overclocked, just to stay running. They can't even cloak. Look at that plating, rust and steel." The analyst hesitated, but said nothing further. The mood in the Dominion bridge was filled with mockery and smug confidence. No one felt threatened by the Terrans. Suddenly a small signal pinged across their sensors. One of the alien scout ships had sent a harmless scan toward the lead human vessel. It was a basic scan meant to read energy outputs and weapon placements. But something strange happened. The scan didn't just bounce back, it reversed with embedded code that began to fry the Scouts' interface systems within seconds. "What just happened?" the Dominion technician yelled. "We're losing data feeds. Control nodes are crashing. Shut it down now," someone shouted, but it was too late. A third of the Scout systems had gone dark before emergency protocols finally kicked in. Silence hit the command bridge. Everyone stared at the main screen, watching the human ship that had sent no response, had made no move, had simply turned its scan back with invisible precision. Commander Vilas narrowed his eyes. Their defense tech is more advanced than expected, possibly layered encryption filters, high-end signal redirection. That's not defense, one of the alien officers said. That was a counterattack in disguise. Still, the commander waved it off. It's nothing worth worrying about. We outnumber them 10-1. They're here to beg, not to fight. He leaned forward and activated the come again, sending another message. Terran Fleet, this is your final chance to withdraw before your embarrassment becomes permanent. You are not ready for this table, and your toys belong in history books. The message ended without reply on the human ship. Captain Reed stood motionless. He looked out the screen at the shining vessels flexing in front of them. All that light, all that arrogance. He pressed one button quietly. A small signal moved across human communication lines. It read, observation complete. Proceed as ordered. Nothing changed. On the outside, no ship moved, no light blinked. But deep behind the human line, out of sight from the station, a shadow began to shift. Something massive stirred in silence, its signal completely masked, hidden beneath a cloak not made from light bending, but from true invisibility. Back in the Dominion fleet, sensors tried to register mass fluctuations. Something was throwing off gravity readings. Slight tremors in space-time pockets, unreadable density zones. But the data was too strange, so the aliens ignored it, writing it off as sensor errors. Meanwhile, the Terrans waited. They had heard the insults. They had watched the performances. They had said nothing. They knew what was coming next, and they knew the galaxy would never forget it. Mockery turns to curiosity. The meeting room inside the Dominion station gleamed with polished metal walls and glowing floor tiles. Representatives from many alien worlds filled the hall, their uniforms bright, their voices loud. Some laughed, some whispered, some stared at the screen above where the Terran fleet remained still. Around the station, at the center of the room, Commander Vilas stood tall. His face showed confidence, his hands behind his back. He paced slowly while speaking to the council. These humans are bold to come here with nothing but scraps. They insult this council by acting as if they are equals. Council leader, a creature with 6 limbs and silver eyes, tapped the table. Perhaps we judge too fast. Perhaps their design is different, but not weak. Vilas smiled without humor. Design cannot hide weakness. Their ships carry old tech. Their shields flicker. Their systems are outdated. I believe they only survive because no one ever bothered to strike them. Whispers filled the chamber again. Some agreed. Some hesitated. A few stayed silent, choosing not to speak against the commander. Meanwhile, far below the station, in one of the side hangars, 2 young alien engineers watched the human fleet through a monitor. One of them tilted his head, studying the Terran flagship. Look at the energy field, he said. It looks unstable, but my readings say otherwise. Unstable, how it ripples like it's broken, but it never changes shape. It's like it wants us to think it's faulty, or maybe it is faulty, or maybe it's hiding something. The second engineer leaned closer, eyes squinting at the shifting waves of energy that wrapped around the human vessel. It pulsed slow and steady, unlike any Dominion ship. Why would they make it look weak on purpose to make U.S. lower our guard? He didn't say more, because at that moment Dominion war-class carriers moved into position above the station. Their arrival caused tremors in the floor. Their engines hummed like thunder. Each ship a symbol of unmatched strength. Cameras zoomed in across the system, capturing every angle as the warships opened their weapon bays. Plasma cannons lined the sides. Laser rails pointed toward nothing in particular, but aimed just enough to show dominance. The cloaking systems on the carriers shimmered for the crowd, fading in and out with practiced perfection. Dominion wanted the humans to see this, wanted them to know who ruled the stars. But the humans gave no reaction, no change in formation, no activation of defenses, no message returned. They floated silent cold watchers in the void in the Dominion bridge. Commander Velas frowned. He expected fear. He expected movement. Not this empty calm. He turned to his second officer. Target one of their outer ships. No damage, just a warning shot. Make them flinch. Yes, Commander. A pulse shot from one Dominion cruiser. A red streak of energy passed close to the hull of the human vessel. No shield responded. No weapon moved. The pulse hit the armor and sparked, but it did nothing else. The human ship remained still as if untouched. Velas grinned. They don't even know how to defend. But on the human bridge, Captain Reed stood still, watching the data stream roll across his display. The strike was light. The damage was cosmetic. The ship's systems remained perfect. He turned to his communication officer. Send a message. Requesting private channel with Dominion lead. The officer nodded. The message was short, clear. The reply came seconds later. Velas accepted with amusement. His voice rang across the link. So the Terrans found their voice after all. Did our light show finally wake you? Captain Reed's voice came steady. No anger, no pride, just truth. We didn't come here to fight, but you leave us no choice. Velas laughed again. Fight with what? Your hollow ships. Reed did not respond. Instead, he gave a nod to the officer beside him. The signal was sent, not a command but an invitation. A call to something waiting in the shadows, far behind the human fleet in the cold dark, near the edge of the system. Space itself seemed to bend. A shape formed from the silence, blacker than space itself. It had no lights, no glow, no engines visible, and yet it moved forward like a mountain floating in the void. Dominion sensors blinked. A ripple, a distortion. Then something massive appeared on every scan. Mass signature rising, gravity fields shifting. Communications jammed for 2 seconds. Just 2, but long enough to cause panic on every screen. The shape grew clearer. A ship larger than anything in orbit. A behemoth. Its surface layered with black panels that drank light. A single red line pulsed across its side, like a beating heart. Leviathan had arrived in the Dominion station. Alarm sounded, sensors ran wild. One technician shouted readings faster than anyone could track. Unknown vessel. Incoming dead center. Human signal signature. Impossible size. Estimated crew. Unknown weapons. Unknown structure beyond scan depth. Commander Velas stared at the image. He opened his mouth but said nothing. The Leviathan moved without sound, without lights. It came to rest behind the Terran fleet, slowly taking position, as if it had always been there. In the council hall, silence ruled. Every eye on the screen. Even those who mocked earlier now sat frozen. A single council member whispered, "That's not a ship, that's something else on the human bridge." Captain Reed finally spoke. Activate level 1 systems. Keep weapons cold. Full shield sync. Engage passive monitoring. Let them watch the Leviathan's surface shifted. Slightly, panels reformed without moving. A signal wave spread out like a quiet breath. It reached Dominion ships and passed through their hulls. No damage, just touch. A scan without words. Within seconds, several Dominion ships lost power. One cruiser floated dead in space, its engine offline, its guidance system scrambled. Not destroyed, only silenced. Panic rose across Dominion channels. Officers shouted, engineers ran, techs tried to restore systems, but they found no errors, no damage, just absence. As if their ships had simply gone to sleep on the Leviathan. Nothing moved. No weapons drawn, no drones deployed, just presence. A quiet message in form alone. Back in the station, Commander Velas turned from the screen, his voice lower, now not as proud. Send message request to re-establish peaceful communication. But the Terrans had already turned off their link. They had said what needed to be said. They had shown enough. And the galaxy was beginning to realize the truth, hidden behind silence, hidden behind still ships, hidden behind humble design. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to be seen. The warning shot inside the Dominion flagship. Tension spread like smoke. Officers who had once smiled now stared at The screens without speaking, eyes wide, hands stiff, voices quiet. The arrival of the massive human vessel had shaken their pride, but none wanted to admit it out loud. Levem stood behind the Terran fleet, silent like a sleeping beast, its black surface did not shine. Its engines made no noise. It gave no signal except its presence, a presence that bent sensors and made Dominion tech read errors they could not explain. Commander Velas stood frozen in front of the main view panel, his jaw clenched, his mind trying to shape a response that could save face before his crew. He wanted to believe it was a trick, an illusion, a projection maybe. He turned to the lead engineer. "Give me a breakdown now, tell me what we're looking at." The engineer struggled to read the numbers. Mass reading, shifting power core, unknown exterior material, unreadable, no visible weapon ports, no standard heat patterns, no identification markers, no known tech matches database, sir. Then how do you explain ID can't, sir? Every time we scan it, the readings loop or break. The systems do not know what to do with it. Velas walked back to his chair, each step heavy. His thoughts ran fast. Too fast. He had laughed at these humans just an hour ago. Now he sat beneath the shadow of something far beyond his understanding. On the other side of the battlefield, the Terran fleet remained quiet, their formations held, their engines idle. From the Leviathan, no word came, no signal, no sound, no move. But all ships stayed in place like they waited inside the Leviathan. A command crew sat inside a silent chamber. The captain of the Leviathan, known only by call sign Orion, sat in the center of the round bridge, surrounded by walls that flowed like water. The ship responded to thought. Not buttons, not switches. It was alive in its own way, a vessel born from a new age of design. Orion spoke one line to the AI core. "Confirm." Dominion scan activity confirmed. Scans increasing, pulse energy rising. Targeting grid activated on 4 enemy ships and their purpose. "Testing our limits, sir." Orion gave no reaction. "Send a message to Terran fleet leaders, conditions stable. No action required unless fired upon." Message sent. The Leviathan's outer panel shifted slowly, no visible change to the eye, but Dominion sensors picked up sudden movement across its surface, waves of heat with no source, vibrations through empty space. Waves that carried no sound, but triggered alarms back in the Dominion fleet. Some ships began to reposition slightly. Nothing aggressive, just adjustments. But the human scanners picked up the motion on board the Terran flagship. "Captain Reed, observe the change. Alert status," he said. "Low energy defense, ready. Drones keep primary weapons in shadow." The crew moved with precision, quiet, but sharp. They had trained for this for years. For this moment when humanity would no longer stay quiet under the judgment of greater empires. In the Dominion fleet, Commander Velas felt the pressure rise around him. His officers whispered to one another. His second-in-command looked at him and finally spoke. "We cannot ignore this any longer, sir. That ship is not something we are prepared to face." Velas nodded once, his voice low. "Send another message. Offer talks again. Show respect." The message went out, across the silent gap between fleets. But this time no reply came. The Leviathan remained still, silent, unmoving, and then something changed. A Dominion scout ship moved too close to the human perimeter. Its sensors stretched too far. Its system sent a scan directly into the Leviathan's core. A beam of energy flickered across space. It touched the black surface of the massive ship for less than 1 second. That was enough. The Leviathan responded, not with weapons, not with speed, but with presence. A wave of invisible force expanded outward, not explosive, not harmful, a field of silence. It passed over the scout ship like a tide. When the wave ended, the scout ship floated dead in space, its engines off, lights gone, systems flat, a full shutdown without damage. Panic spread again. Dominion officers shouted. Emergency crews scrambled. Communications jammed for 5 seconds. The affected Ship began to drift slowly across space, helpless on the Leviathan's bridge. The I-Corps gave its report. Pulse field delivered. Threat neutralized. No life forms harmed. Containment maintained. Orion leaned forward. Activate first layer. Warning, open. The eye across the Leviathan's surface, a single panel in the center, shifted. A red circle glowed dimly at first, then brighter. Slowly it turned like an ancient wheel. A glowing eye watching the Dominion fleet. The Dominion officers watched in fear. The eye was not a weapon, but it felt like one. Every ship in the Dominion line received a signal, then a single visual, a map projection. It showed the Leviathan in motion. It showed all Dominion ships around it. It showed strike paths, defensive zones, control fields, attack outcomes, all without sound. And it showed the final outcome: all Dominion ships disabled in less than 6 minutes. No words. Just prediction. Just proof. The Dominion Council aboard the station now gathered again, their pride stripped, their faces pale. One council elder finally stood and said, "What do we do now?" No one answered. In the human fleet, a signal was sent again. A message short and final. "Stand down. We are not here to destroy, but we will not tolerate insult." Silence followed. For several long minutes then, slowly Dominion ships began to pull back, not retreat, but reformation. Shields lowered, weapons powered down. No more scans, no more shows. They had seen enough. Back in the Leviathan, the red-eyed dimmed panels returned to their quiet state. The ship resumed its place behind the Terran fleet, like a guardian, not a warrior captain. Reed received the report from the Leviathan. No resistance, no further threats. Dominion stepping down. He gave one small nod. Carry on as planned. Await final terms. The message would be clear across the stars, across every listening station and watching world. Humanity had come in silence, not in fear but in strength, hidden strength, chosen silence. And now the silence had spoken. Leviathan awakens across the Dominion fleet. A strange stillness spread. Ships no longer shifted position. Weapons no longer flashed bright lights. The commanders who once spoke with pride now sat in silence, eyes locked on the massive human ship that had changed the course of the meeting. Without firing a single shot, the Leviathan floated in space without sound or signal. No banners, no movement, yet it felt alive. The black metal surface of the ship slowly moved in waves, like it was breathing, not mechanical but something more, something alive in a way no one fully understood. Inside the Leviathan, the command crew sat without rush. The walls of the bridge responded to their thoughts. Lights changed colors based on intention, not switches. The captain, Orion, did not shout orders. He only observed. Let them come to their own conclusion, he said. They chose to mock what they never studied. Now they must choose if they wish to understand. In the Dominion Central Council chamber, confusion had replaced confidence. Some members argued for retreat, others for negotiation. Commander Vilas stood near the display showing the Leviathan. Every second it remained quiet, felt heavier than the last one. Young council speaker said, "Maybe it is a bluff. Maybe that ship is just for show. We still outnumber them." Another replied, "If that is a bluff, then we are already finished. Did you not see what it did with one pulse?" They talked over each other, voices rising until a deep tone filled the room. It was the voice of the eldest member, the only one who had not spoken since the Leviathan arrived. "Enough," he said. "The humans sent a warning, not a weapon. We would be wise to treat this moment with care." Back near the fleet, Dominion engineers kept scanning the Leviathan, hoping to break through the layers of signal fog. They tried heat, they tried light, they tried frequency jumps, but nothing worked. Every scan returned nonsense or silence. One engineer noticed something strange. The Leviathan's shape kept changing slightly. Not in size but in structure. Plates reformed, engines disappeared and reappeared. Sensors moved, then vanished again. "It adapts," the engineer whispered. "It's not static, it's growing." On board a Dominion destroyer, a captain received orders from high Command: send a drone close range. No weapons, only scan and observe. The drone was small, fast, built for stealth. It approached the Leviathan slowly, cameras rolling, scanners ready. It reached 20 kilometers. No response. 10 kilometers, still nothing. 5 kilometers, a signal flashed, not from the drone, from the Leviathan. Drone's cameras stopped working. Navigation failed, its data core shut off, engines died. It did not explode. It simply went dark and continued drifting across space like a pebble thrown into a sea without ripples. Dominion fleet watched their drone fade away. Then, without warning, the Leviathan moved. It turned slowly. No rush. Its body reformed again, this time revealing lines along its side. Not weapons, but vents, energy. Vents glowing, faint red heat built from within. Panels along its lower surface opened, releasing drones that looked nothing like any known ship. They were smooth and dark like their mother ship. Each drone moved with fluid grace. No engine trails. No thrusters visible, yet they flew as if guided by instinct. 50 drones spread across the space between fleets, forming a perfect line between the Leviathan and the Dominion. No weapons drawn, just presence. One Dominion captain prepared shields, another warned to power up their weapons, but Central Command stopped them. Let it play out. They said no attacks unless attacked. The drones began to transmit a signal, simple, low frequency. It was a repeating pattern, a code in old math, a language used by early spacefaring civilizations, a reminder of shared history. The Dominion's response came back, respectful, not aggressive. It was the first message without sarcasm, without pride. We acknowledge your position. We seek dialogue inside the Leviathan. The crew watched the response unfold. The Eye translated the message for Captain Orion. He said, "Give them what they asked." Leviathan's drones returned to the ship slowly, their movement smooth, their energy levels stable, no damage done, no fear spread. Only one message had been delivered: true power does not strike first. Back on the human flagship, Captain Reed received full reports. The Dominion fleet is now holding formation. No further probes, no signs of attack. They are listening now. Reed responded. Good, let them listen. Let them think. The Dominion Council gathered again, this time without laughter, this time without challenge. They reviewed the recordings again. The drones, the energy field, the disabled scout ships, the silence that had done more damage than any weapon. One military advisor said, "Their design is unlike anything in the archives. They bend the rules of space. Without light, without sound, they control the field without touching it." Another said, "Their message is simple. They have the ability to destroy us, yet they chose not to. That is not weakness. That is control." The council finally voted open peaceful channels. Accept Terran terms of discussion. Begin formal diplomatic steps. Commander Velas did not speak this time. He only watched the red eye of the Leviathan on the screen and stayed quiet. Back inside the Leviathan, the crew stood down. Drones docked back into the ship. Systems cooled, energy levels dropped, no weapons charged, no shields raised. Captain Orion stood in silence, then gave one small nod. Message received. Standby for Earth Command. Galaxy would speak of this day, not as a battle, but as a shift in power. One where humanity no longer stood as the newcomer, where silence had become the loudest voice. One where the ship with no flag had become the flag itself. And above all, one where the name Leviathan would echo not in fear, but in respect. Power redefined. The stars around the Dominion fleet shimmered in silence. Ships that once held a firm grip over nearby sectors now floated, still, engines off, weapons cold. Crews waiting not for orders, but for direction. There was no sound of war, no fire across space. Only the quiet breath of change inside the Dominion station. The council had begun formal talks with the human delegation. The large hall that once echoed with laughter now held only calm voices. Words carried weight. No more mockery, no more games. Terran envoy stood at the far end of the chamber, not tall, not dressed in golden armor. His Uniform simple dark blue with a small earth symbol near the collar. His voice steady, each sentence spoken with care. "We are not here to rule. We are not here to threaten. We came only to observe what lies beyond our borders. You chose to test us, and we responded only when needed." The council listened without interruption, their faces no longer proud, their eyes fixed on the human envoy like students before a teacher. One council member asked with slow words, "Why hide such strength? Why keep a ship like the Leviathan in the dark, while sending smaller, outdated ships ahead?" Human looked at him for a moment before answering, "Because true strength hides in patience, not in noise. We do not seek respect through fear, we seek it through restraint." Another voice rose from the side. One of the younger Dominion captains who had earlier mocked the Terran fleet. Now his tone was different, more careful. "What else are you hiding?" The human gave a soft reply. "We hide only what you are not ready to see." Far beyond the station, the Leviathan still waited in the cold void. It did not move, it did not glow, it simply existed, larger than any ship nearby, stronger than any force in orbit, its systems idle, its presence alone enough to hold 1,000 ships in place inside. The Leviathan. The crew received updates from Earth High Command, had reviewed the data, and now sent one simple message: continue. Peace talks, observe response, leave if unchallenged. Captain Orion, read the message twice, then gave a slow nod. His eyes moved across the bridge, then returned to the screen before him where the Dominion ships still floated around the station, like children circling a teacher, unsure what lesson would come next. At the same moment, deep inside the Dominion station, one of the scientists approached the human envoy. A being with 4 arms and pale green skin, his name unknown to most, eyes filled with questions. What is the Leviathan truly? What powers it? How does it fly without noise? How does it see without eyes? The human envoy answered with calm eyes, "You see a ship. We see a promise. A promise that power can be used to protect, not to control. A promise that humans can walk among the stars without raising weapons until provoked, and if provoked," the scientist asked, "then we do what must be done, and nothing more." The conversation ended without a handshake, without formality, but the message had been passed from system to system. The news spread faster than light. The Terrans had come with old ships and quiet voices. Then one ship appeared and changed everything. No shots fired, no battles won. Only silence enforced by present civilizations. Across nearby sectors began to speak in whispers. Some feared the humans, others admired them. A few even sent messages of friendship, hoping to avoid the same fate as the Dominion. In the weeks that followed, formal agreements were signed. The Dominion agreed to stay clear of Earth territories. Shared patrol rights were proposed, trade routes discussed. Peace written not through pressure but understanding. Leviathan remained in orbit for only 2 days after the meeting ended. Its departure was silent. No farewell message, no last display. Just a gentle shift in space as it turned and vanished behind the shadows of distant moons. Dominion ships did not follow. They did not scan. They did not speak. They simply watched and remembered back. On Earth, the fleet received the Leviathan's return with no celebration. No grand event, only quiet reports reviewed and archived. No headlines declared victory. No parades followed, only the words, "Mission complete," logged into the system in one dark office deep beneath the surface of Earth. A senior officer reviewed the full transmission of the event, from start to finish. He watched as the Dominion mocked the humans. He watched the Leviathan appear. He watched the fear change to silence. Then he leaned back in his chair, closed the file, and spoke softly to himself. "We don't need to be loud to be remembered." On the far side of Earth orbit, the Leviathan entered low power mode, drifting slowly inside the secured dock, invisible to the public. Unseen by the world, once again a shadow waiting for the next time it would be needed. Inside the ship, the crew rested, systems cooled, lights dimmed. No alarms, no drills, no voices raised. Only Peace Captain Orion stood near the main viewing screen alone. Hands behind his back, eyes on the stars outside. Young crew member approached him quietly and asked, "Did we win?" Orion turned his head slightly. This was not a game. There was no prize, only a lesson. And what was the lesson, sir? That the galaxy is large. That pride is loud, that fear spreads fast. But above all, he paused. That silence, when backed by strength, speaks louder than any threat. The crew member nodded, then returned to her station without another word. Outside the station, far from the Earth, Sun Leviathan continued to float, not forgotten, not honored, just ready. And across the stars, those who had once mocked, now remembered, not the names, not the faces, but the ship that never fired yet, won every battle with its presence alone, and the world that built it, the world called Earth, the end.